The sound of crystal glasses clinking was almost drowned out by the soft hum of conversation in my own living room. I stood near the bay window, the late afternoon sun brushing my shoulders in a golden hue, my favorite silk scarf loosely knotted at my neck. The scent of roasted rosemary chicken drifted from the kitchen, warm and comforting, until her words sliced through the air. "She's sweet, but not really educated," my daughter-in-law, Jenna, said with a careless laugh. The chatter around the dining table faltered. Even the clatter of forks against porcelain seemed to hold its breath. I turned slowly, my heart giving a single hard thud, but my smile never wavered. Years of courtroom poise, years no one here knew about, kept my voice steady. "Oh." I tilted my head, as if I hadn't just been struck. "Is that what you think?" Jenna's friends exchanged glances, a flicker of discomfort flashing across their carefully made-up faces. Jenna, still unaware of the storm she had stirred, shrugged and reached for her wine glass. Inside, 1,000 memories unspooled, long nights of study, the scrape of cheap library chairs, the quiet triumph of a diploma earned when everyone thought I couldn't. But outwardly, I simply adjusted the silk at my neck and let the silence linger. Tonight, I decided, the truth would no longer stay hidden. 2 decades earlier, I was not the woman who could hold a room with nothing more than a raised eyebrow. I was just Maggie Lewis, a 27-year-old wife and new mother in a one-bedroom apartment on the south side of Chicago, someone everyone assumed would stay quietly in the background. I can still smell the starch of freshly ironed shirts as I folded my husband's laundry the night it all came to a head. He was pacing, phone pressed to his ear, his voice sharp as a paper cut. "She wants to apply to law school," he told his mother, not even bothering to lower his tone. "Can you believe that? With a baby? Maggie's smart, but she's not cut out for that kind of life." The words hit me like a sudden winter draft. Not cut out. I pressed my palms against the fabric of his dress shirt until the seams bit into my skin. My throat tightened, a hot sting gathered behind my eyes. When he hung up, he looked at me with what he thought was kindness. "Honey, it's not that you're not capable," he said, slipping into the gentle voice that always came before he told me no. "It's just, law school is brutal. Why put yourself through that when we need you here?" I wanted to shout that I was already enduring something brutal, the slow erasure of the woman I knew I could be. Instead, I swallowed the ache and nodded, letting the conversation die while my heart burned. The next afternoon, as if the universe refused to let me surrender, a letter arrived from Professor Eleanor Brooks, my old political science mentor from community college. Her tidy script filled the page. "Maggie, I still remember the way you dismantled that debate in class. Don't let anyone convince you that brilliance belongs only to those who shout the loudest. The law needs voices like yours, steady, clear, unafraid. Enclosed is a notebook for the ideas I know you'll one day defend." Inside the envelope rested a small, leather-bound notebook the color of midnight. Its pages were blank, waiting. That night, after my husband fell asleep, I opened it and wrote only 3 words on the first page. "I begin now." I didn't know how I'd pay for tuition or childcare. I only knew the decision was already made. The months that followed blurred into a relentless rhythm, motherhood by day, ambition by night. By 7 each morning, I was packing little Ethan's diaper bag and leaving him with Mrs. Russo, the neighbor who smelled faintly of cinnamon and always hummed gospel hymns. By 7 each evening, after dinner and bedtime stories, I slipped into the quiet of our tiny living room, transformed it into a law library, and buried myself in case briefs until my eyelids quivered. The leather-bound notebook never left my side. Every evening I scrawled a single line of gratitude before diving into torts and constitutional law. The soft creak of our worn couch became the soundtrack to my hidden life, the whir of the ancient box fan, my white noise shield against the doubts that sometimes roared louder than traffic outside. Money was always the riddle. I took a part-time job at a local legal clinic, filing motions, fetching coffee, pretending it was just a way to help out, while secretly studying every document that crossed my desk. I learned by watching. The sharp efficiency of seasoned attorneys, the subtle sway of courtroom cadence. Professor Eleanor Brooks never stopped believing. Once a week she called from her own bustling practice, her voice a calm anchor. "Remember, Maggie," she'd say, "the law rewards the steady and the brave. You are both." The nights grew longer as exams approached. There were moments when exhaustion threatened to drown me, when Ethan woke at midnight with a fever, when the bills stacked like an unyielding jury. Some evenings I stared at my own reflection in the dark window and whispered, "You asked for this. Don't you dare quit now." Then came the small victories. The first time a supervising attorney nodded at my legal analysis. The day a professor returned my paper with the words, "Brilliant reasoning," scrawled in red. Each win was a quiet rebellion, a whisper to the world that I belonged. When the bar exam results finally arrived, I stood in the tiny kitchen, hands trembling over the envelope. Ethan, now a rambunctious preschooler, tugged at my sleeve. I opened it with a single, shallow breath. "Congratulations, Margaret Lewis. You have passed the Illinois bar examination." The room tilted. I pressed the paper to my chest as if it might disappear. I never told my husband that night. By then, our marriage was a fragile truce of separate lives. He assumed my late nights were hobbies. He never asked what they produced. Maybe I wanted it that way. My triumph was mine alone, unsoiled by disbelief. In the years that followed, I built a quiet career, defending tenants against predatory landlords, guiding women through custody battles. I earned respect in hushed courtrooms and modest offices, never feeling the need to broadcast my victories. To my family, I was simply Maggie, devoted mother, dutiful wife. To the law, I was attorney Margaret Lewis. And for nearly 20 years, I kept that truth folded neatly inside me, like the midnight notebook now worn soft from every secret I'd poured into it. The silence after Jenna's remarks stretched thin, like the pause before a judge delivers a verdict. A log shifted in the fireplace, the soft pop of wood breaking the only sound in the room. I smoothed the silk scarf at my neck and let a measured breath fill my lungs. Years in courtrooms had taught me that silence is a weapon. It forces people to hear what they've said. Jenna's friends shifted uncomfortably, their bracelets jingling like distant wind chimes. "I suppose," I said at last, my voice even, "we all have different definitions of education." Jenna gave a small, dismissive laugh and reached for the bottle of Merlot. "Oh, I didn't mean anything by it, Maggie. You know, you're wonderful with Ethan's kids. But degrees, law school, all that, it's just not your thing." "My thing." I glanced toward the antique cabinet in the corner of the living room. The glass panes gleamed under the soft light, reflecting back the woman I had become. Slowly, I crossed the room. "I've always believed," I said, sliding the cabinet door open, "that the best education isn't about who shouts the loudest." My fingers closed around a leather folder I hadn't touched in years. "It's about who keeps learning even when no one believes in them." I turned, folder in hand. The conversation behind me fell away. Only the low hiss of the fire remained. Jenna's smile faltered. "What's that?" I walked back to the table and laid the folder gently in front of her. The gold lettering of the University of Chicago Law School glowed against the dark leather. Her manicured fingers hesitated before she lifted the cover. The parchment inside caught the flicker of firelight, my name scripted in formal black ink. Margaret Lewis, Juris Doctor. Her mouth parted. The flush that rose to her cheeks spread like a slow sunrise. She began, but the words withered. I met her eyes. "I earned that degree while raising Ethan. Passed the Illinois bar while you were still in middle school. I've argued in courtrooms from here to Springfield. And for nearly 20 years, I chose to keep it to myself." Around the table, Jenna's friends stared, eyes wide. One set her wineglass down with a soft click. Jenna finally managed a whisper. You're a lawyer?" "Yes," I said simply. "I was a lawyer long before you married my son." The weight of the room shifted. The earlier smugness dissolved into an almost reverent hush. I could feel every heartbeat, mine steady, hers suddenly unsure. "I never needed to advertise it," I continued, "because education isn't a trophy to wave at parties. It's a promise you keep to yourself." For a long moment no one spoke. The crackle of the fire and the faint tick of the grandfather clock marked the only sound. Jenna's gaze fell to the diploma again. Her lips parted as if to speak, then closed. I drew the scarf from my neck and folded it carefully over my wrist, the silk whispering like a gavel's final tap. "I don't expect an apology," I said, my tone gentle but firm. "But perhaps, next time, you'll think twice before measuring someone's worth by the paper you think they lack." Her eyes glistened. She gave the smallest of nods. The silence returned, but this time it carried something new, respect, and perhaps the first glimmer of understanding. Jenna stayed very still, the diploma lying before her like evidence in a trial. The room's energy had shifted. The hush wasn't awkward now, but expectant, like the breath held before a verdict is read. I rested a hand lightly on the table's edge. "Jenna," I said, my voice soft but deliberate, "this isn't about embarrassing you. It's about what we choose to value in each other." Her eyes flicked up to mine. The defensiveness that had sharpened her earlier words was gone. What replaced it looked almost like fear? No, not fear. Vulnerability. I didn't mean it the way it sounded," she murmured. "I was just showing off, I guess." I nodded. "I know. But words have weight. And you're raising children who will one day measure themselves by the way you measure others." The friends beside her sat silent, their gazes lowered. For a moment, even the fire seemed to listen. "When I was your age," I continued, "people told me I wasn't capable of more than keeping house. They said a mother's place was in the kitchen, not a courtroom. I chose to prove them wrong, but more importantly, I chose to grow for myself, not to win anyone's approval." I slid the leather folder toward her. "Take a good look at that name. It isn't there because someone handed it to me. It's there because I refuse to accept the limits others try to set." Jenna blinked, a tear threatening to spill. I've thought about going back to school," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I keep telling myself it's too late." "It's never too late," I said firmly. "But it starts with changing how you see people and yourself. Promise me this. Before you dismiss someone's worth, remember that everyone is carrying a story you can't see." Her chin trembled. "I promise. And if you ever decide to chase that degree," I added, softening my tone, "I'll help you. I know the nights are long and the doubts are loud, but you'll never regret choosing to learn." Jenna drew in a shaky breath. "Thank you, Maggie." Around the table, her friends nodded slightly, as though a silent lesson had unfolded for them as well. I reached for my scarf and draped it once more around my shoulders. "Then we'll leave it at that," I said gently. "Growth isn't about winning arguments. It's about becoming the person you were meant to be." The fire crackled again, this time like quiet applause. Over the weeks that followed, the evening of Jenna's careless remark became something we never directly revisited, but its echo lingered in small, almost imperceptible ways. One Saturday morning, as sunlight spilled across the kitchen tiles, Jenna arrived with a spiral-bound notebook tucked under her arm. "Community college registration," she explained with a shy smile. "I'm starting with night classes, business administration." I felt a quiet warmth rise in my chest. "That sounds perfect," I said and meant it. She began calling me during study breaks, sometimes just to share the thrill of grasping a new concept. "It's hard," she admitted once, "but in a good way, the kind that makes you want to keep going." The transformation in her was gentle yet steady, a newfound patience with her children's endless questions, a softening in the way she spoke to strangers. She no longer filled silences with small boasts. Instead, she listened. One evening, after helping her outline a term paper, I returned to my own bedroom where the old midnight blue notebook rested in my nightstand drawer. The leather had faded at the edges, its pages a tapestry of years. My fears, my triumphs, every late-night whisper of determination. I traced a finger over those 3 words on the very first page. "I begin now." They felt as alive as the day I wrote them, a quiet pulse of courage that had carried me through every cross-examination life could throw. From the living room came the sound of Jenna laughing with Ethan and the children. It was a laughter free of pretense, full of something softer, Humility, perhaps, or hope. I closed the notebook and slipped it back into the drawer. My journey no longer needed proving. It had already seeded something new in the next generation. Standing at the doorway, I let the moment settle, like the final words of a closing argument. They called me uneducated once. I whispered to myself, a smile curving my lips. I simply smiled and let my law degree finish the conversation.